This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. The holidays are over, the decorations are down, and suddenly everything feels a little empty. It's normal to feel the winter blues after the holiday excitement. January, February, and March are by far my least favorite months of the year. It's cold and dark, and I have to get some extra vitamin D on board. I also need to keep my regular scheduled appointments with my therapist. So if you're feeling that post-holiday funk, I definitely suggest you checking out BetterHelp because maybe it's time to talk. You might also be one of those people like me who makes New Year's resolutions and you get super motivated. So maybe you need someone behind you to hold you accountable and come up with a plan to meet your goals. BetterHelp is super convenient, totally online. You have a therapist right at your fingertips whenever you need them. So head over to betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/wifeofcrime1 for 10% off your first month.
This podcast is an unscripted, unedited conversation about true crime. We take the cases very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all. And neither should you. Welcome to Wife of Crime.
So, Russ, I hope you and our listeners are ready because the story I'm telling you this week is like something out of nightmares. We've talked about a decent amount of serial killers on this show, but this guy, Robert Berdella, he says, hold my beer to a few of them. This is the case of the Kansas City Butcher.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wife of Crime. It's Russ. I'm here with Jess. She's letting me do the intro for the first time in like a year. So cheers to us for getting to do this intro.
Very good. Welcome back to Wife of Crime, a true crime podcast where I tell Russ my favorite true crime stories and he reacts to them.
And that's just like very typical marriage. Like the husband will do something, but the wife is going to come behind you and do it the right way anyway.
Well, hashtag marriage. Everyone listening that's married gets it.
Yeah. Sorry, husbands. So I have an announcement. It kind of sucks, but after like 50 episodes or so, we finally have a Russ messed up. Normally it's a Jess messed up, and normally it's not me, and I haven't made a mistake since 96.
Shut up. You're so full of it.
So now the streak has been broken. So what it is last episode, I said Bob Barker was dead. And Bob Barker is alive. Thank God. I'm glad he's alive. The best putter of all time. If you watch Price Right, you know he sinks that putt every time. So sorry, Bob. You know, the price is still right.
You know who actually did die this week, though? And it's a really huge loss for hip-hop fans and people our age. I was really sad about it that DMX passed away. It made me really sad.
Me too. I was kind of messed up this week. I really like DMX.
Yeah, 2 years ago, me, Russ, and Carrie, Russ's sister, we went to DMX's concert in New York City. It was his first concert in a long time.
So you want to hear a funny part of this story, though?
What?
So in the DMX show, he's rapping, whatever. He starts doing a girl song, and he starts looking at Jess, and he's rapping, right? And he has a towel in his hand.
I didn't think you were going to tell me.
And he tosses Jess a towel.
A
and I'm like,
towel.
ew, you touching the sweaty towel? And then he tosses another girl a towel, and he keeps rapping. At the end of the show, the guy, whoever his man is, whoever his manager, his homie,
God.
he walks up to Jess and the other girl. First, the other girl goes to say something. Then he comes up to Jess and he goes, DMX would like to invite you backstage.
I didn't think you were going to tell this story on here.
So Jess is like, I'm with my husband. And then they're like, he can come too. And then my sister's with us, and she's like, let's go, Russ. And I'm like, wait a minute. Do you want me to stand outside the door while they have sex with you?
Ew,
What do you mean?
Stop. No.
Like, do you think that he looked at you too and he said, you know what? They look like they're very interesting and we would have a great conversation. No.
It was funny. Carrie was like, yeah, let's go. And Russ was not about it. No.
But we were in the very, very front row, too.
It was such a good concert.
You can check my Instagram. There's a picture of us. Vote for Russ. And we're right front row while he's rapping. It's pretty dope.
It was a really good show. It was amazing. Swiss Beats came. So that was exactly 2 years ago because it was April 5th of 2019. And he died just on Thursday. It made me so sad. I ended up driving home from work and I listened to the albums I listened to when I was young of his, and it just brought back so many memories, and R.I.P.
But I feel like New York ain't the same. He's a very good ambassador for New York, how we are, like, you know, we're real, we're kind of tough, but we also are, I guess, a little sensitive too, you know?
True.
And you know, and we love dogs, at least.
Oh, yeah, and he loved his dogs. He did.
R.I.P. DMX.
Yes.
And I also have a review of the week. So, like I said, I was going to do it every week. That means I'm going to do it sometimes.
Yep.
So, this one says, Dear Russ, 5 stars. Russ, ! Don't hate me, but I actually couldn't stand you for the longest time. I've seen the error in my ways, and I now listen to you guys all the time! ! My husband will even listen without complaining thanks to you. So I'm here to apologize. Thanks for all the great content.
Oh, that's nice.
That's dope. I'll accept your apology one day. I'll just ponder on this for a while.
No, she gave you 5 stars.
It doesn't really bother me. But, you know, the mold strikes again. That's it. Now you can't get rid of me.
Oh, boy.
And I had a couple other ones, but now since there was a couple that I could have spoke about, I'll save them for next episode if I remember, because I always, like, before we record, I'm like, I'm going to say this next episode, and I never say shit.
You always forget what you're going to say. All right, well, that's it for our stuff, I think. So this week's episode was actually picked by our patrons. I put a poll on Patreon and asked for them to choose between Bob Berdella and David Parker Ray, a.k.a. the Toy Box Killer. And they chose Bob Berdella. It was close, but Bob won by 3 votes.
Wow.
To the Toy Box Killer. So I will definitely cover the Toy Box Killer in the future because I know I've gotten that requested a lot. But today we're covering Bob Berdella, a.k.a. the Kansas City Butcher.
I've seen a lot of people ask for the Toy Box Killer in, like, DMs, like, when I go look through it, because Jess messes with the DMs, but I just get nosy and want to see what people say. And I don't respond, because I always say my responses are too short, and Jess says they seem rude. So I don't really respond.
Well, yeah, the patrons...
But I see them.
The patrons picked this one this week. And, you know, we got a lot of cool stuff going on Patreon. We do monthly bonus episodes. They get to sometimes, they're going to end up, like, this was our first time doing this, but they're going to pick episodes sometimes when I can't choose between 2. I'll have them, you know, be the tiebreakers. We did a Q&A episode, which I loved. And we got, like, exclusive merch. So definitely check out the Patreon because it's fun.
Jess was really drunk for the Q&A. She doesn't remember the ending.
I don't.
No, you barely remember it.
I don't. I'm going to have to go re-listen to it now. That's so funny. I don't remember it at all. So really quick, we want to shout out Heidi, Elena, and Julie because they're the ones that signed up for Patreon this week. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out. Thank you, guys.
Cheers to you guys. Thank you. And thank you for all the existing ones as well. You guys are... cool AF.
And we interact a lot on Patreon, and we have a lot of fun. We also recorded Framing Britney Spears for our monthly bonus episode, and me and Russ completely disagreed on everything the entire time, and we had some strong opinions about that. Some of our patrons gave us some strong comments that either sided with Russ or sided with me, so it was really interesting. But we have a lot of fun over there, so thank you for all of our patrons, and definitely check it out if you haven't yet.
Yeah, I just don't feel bad for Britney. That's what it comes down to.
All right, well, we don't have to get into it again.
All right.
Leave Brittany alone.
Or don't.
So I try to spread the super, super sick cases out because honestly, it's a lot. I truly get affected sometimes by these cases. And, you know, when I'm researching the super crazy gory ones, they've given me bad dreams in the past. So, you know, we were due for a serial killer, a pretty bad one, because we haven't covered a really bad serial killer in a while. So I'd figured I'd just go ahead and find the worst of the worst to tell you. And it was between Bob Berdella and David Parker Ray. So, like I said, we've covered some sick people in the past, but Robert Berdella, a.k.a. the Kansas City Butcher, says, hold my beer to all the ones we've covered.
Well,
Are you ready?
Starting off on a good term, we're holding beers. This week is Bacardi and Coke, though.
Are you ready?
Yeah, man.
In April 1988, a man servicing a water meter at a home in Kansas City, Missouri, was approached by a young, naked, bruised, and bleeding man wearing nothing but a dog collar.
Whoa.
He claimed he had just escaped the home across the street. The address was 4315 Charlotte Street, and it belonged to a guy named Bob Berdella. The young man said his name was Chris Bryson. He needed a phone to call the police. Chris didn't want police to know that he was turning tricks recently to support his drug habit. So he told them he was hitchhiking in another part of town when a man abducted him and brought him to his house. The true story, however, is that sadly Chris was an addict, and sometimes he would sell his buddy. And sometimes he would. What?
Just said sometimes he would sell his butt.
I actually said sometimes he would sell his buddy. I was about to say buddy.
Oh, they said he would sell his butt.
No. Sometimes he would sell. Okay.
I don't know why it's so funny. It's your butt. You could sell it if you want.
I just said body wrong. I said buddy.
Because you were going to say butt at first, and you changed it to body. You ain't fooling me.
Okay. Anyway. So the true story, however, is that sadly,
I'm sorry.
Chris was an addict, and he would sometimes sell his body for drug money. Bob pulled up to him and asked if he wanted to party, and Chris got in the car. Want to party, like, usually means, do you want to do coke, right? I mean, in New York City, in the bar scene, I feel like when people come up to you and say, want to party, it means you want to do some coke.
You know, I didn't know that for a long time, even when I started bartending.
You didn't?
No, because I don't do drugs. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
But I don't knock you. Do whatever the hell you want. So people would be like, at the bar, Russ, do you party? And I'd be like, nah, I don't go out much.
They were like, totally over your head. Like,
well, then I obviously don't party.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, that's what it means here in New York. I don't know if it's like that everywhere. But anyway, so either way, Chris got in the car thinking he was going to get his next fix. As he pulled up to Bob's house, he noticed that Bob had a few dogs. Specifically, he loved and bred chow chows, which... Have you ever seen a chow chow? They're like the most adorable dogs. They're the ones that look like teddy bears. They're really furry.
Yeah, I fell down the rabbit hole of YouTube recently, and I was looking at dogs, and they're one of the hardest dogs to train. Fun fact.
I didn't know that. That is really...
Hashtag Russ facts.
That's really interesting. One of the easiest dogs to train is a Doberman, right?
No, I thought it was like a border collie or something like that.
Oh, maybe.
Dobermans, they said, now we're getting into this, they said that they get bored fast, so you could train them in short spurts, but they'll get it, but they'll like get bored and not want to do it anymore.
So they're like you.
Smart, handsome, funny.
Gets bored easily. Okay. As Chris walked into the home, he started getting a gut feeling that things are going to get weird very quickly. The home was full of strange oddities and antiques, like shrunken heads, jars full of weird-looking objects suspended in water. It was very cluttered and had an almost rancid smell. Bob started walking up the stairs toward the second story of this 3-story house. Chris reluctantly followed. It's crazy to me how addiction will take over and cause you to totally abandon your reasoning and gut feelings. Like, it's crazy that it'll do that. You'll do anything to get that next fix. It's nuts.
It's like a biological flaw in us.
I know, it's crazy. So as soon as Chris reached the top of the stairs, Bob smashed him in the head with a pipe, grabbed him from behind, and stuck a syringe in his neck. This was clearly not Bob's first time doing this. Chris passed out for a few minutes and then started going in and out of consciousness. Berdella then dragged Chris into the bathroom, sat him on the floor against the wall. He put ammonia in his eyes.
With an eye drop?
I don't know how he did it, but he just put ammonia in his eyes.
Damn.
He took multiple Polaroid pictures of him. Then he beat him with an iron pipe and then took more Polaroids. Berdella then went into another room and grabbed a machine with 2 clamps on it. One clamp went on Chris's thigh and the other one went on his testicles.
Oof.
He shocked him over and over and over for about an hour, taking pictures of him writhing and screaming in pain. But the torture was far from over. So crazy. Bob then took 2 syringes. One of them contained a drug called acepromazine, which is a tranquilizer that they use for dogs and cats.
Okay.
The other was Drano, and he injected it into Chris's voice box.
I always thought Drano was so toxic that if entered your system, you'd be dead instantly.
Apparently not, because this guy lives for more torture. So I
Shots
guess,
of Drano after the episode.
I guess if you shoot it in your body in small amounts, it doesn't kill you.
Yeah, because that stuff melts pipes and shit. Well,
yeah.
Not necessarily, but it's super toxic and it smells really bad.
Well, he shot it into his voice box because he said he didn't want him to be able to scream anymore. He then dragged Chris into one of the bedrooms, and there was a 4-post bed in there. He strapped Chris's arms and legs to the 4-post bed, and he left him bound there for the next 24 hours.
I could tell you one thing.
What?
That bed wasn't from IKEA, because you'd be able to pull your arms and legs right off that, and those 4 posts would snap.
Oh, because IKEA furniture sucks.
Yeah.
Well, he laid there for 24 hours, and by the next afternoon, the drugs had worn off. And he started feeling the immeasurable amounts of pain that the guy had put him through. Bob came into the room later in the day with another injection, but this one was penicillin. Because Bob didn't want to kill Chris. He wanted to be able to continue torturing him. So he gave him an antibiotic to prevent him from getting any infections so that he wouldn't die. He wanted to keep Chris as his personal sex slave. So over the course of the next week, Chris was raped by Berdella multiple times a day, with himself and with objects. He would only allow Chris to be unstrapped from the bed to be able to walk to the bathroom, have a few sips of Coca-Cola. He wasn't feeding him. He was just giving him Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Well, Coke to drink, I wanted to say Coca-Cola so you didn't think I meant Coke.
No, I was thinking it's weird that he just didn't give him water.
Yeah, he gave him Coca-Cola and a cigarette. And then he would tie him back up. Chris was being injected with a tranquilizer a few times a day. So this kept him really, really weak and unable to fight back when he did get untied, because he was in and out of consciousness, super weak, because he was injected with enough to just keep him weak, but not enough to make him completely pass out.
I wonder
is insane to me.
If you're I don't know, being tortured and stuff, and then the torturer hands you a cigarette, you're sure, I'll smoke it. Or
well, I feel
get that shit away from me.
At that point, you're probably just trying. Well, I know for Chris anyway, we'll talk about it later, but you're probably just so scared of dying that you're going to follow the rules if you're that weak, or you're going to do whatever they say because you're so afraid that they're going to kill you if you don't.
Well, he did escape butt-ass naked, so he got out. We know that.
Yeah. So Berdella would also which is crazy, he would meticulously document every single thing he did to Chris in a notepad he left by the bed.
Wow.
He would keep Chris tied to the bed with a gag and a dog collar around his neck while he went to work all day. Before leaving for the day, he would rape him, and then he would turn the TV on really loud so that Chris couldn't hear when he was coming home. And he would just lay there with the constant anxiety and suspense of when the torture would resume. Like, how crazy is that? It's so anxiety-provoking.
Yeah, that's... And what do you do? Like, I know me, I say I would fight, and I'd rather just like... I'm going to fight, and he's going to kill me, or I'm going to get out. One or the other, but I just don't want to be here anymore.
Well, days and days passed, and Berdella loved to remind Chris that others had been in this position before, and they didn't follow the rules, and they're dead because of it. So Chris followed the rules because he didn't want to die. He was determined not to die, but instead endure this horrific torture until an opportunity arose for him to escape.
Wow.
Bob began to trust Chris, and one night, Bob rented the movie The Lost Boys, and they watched it together. Chris convinced Bob to leave his arms tied in front of him instead of spread out on the four-post bed because he told him it cut off his circulation. So the next day, before leaving for work, Bob did just that. He left his hands tied in front of him. But this was really smart. Chris spent the whole day laying there, knowing that he might be able to escape, but he chose not to try because he wanted Bob to trust him more so that he would do it again the next day, and that the next day he could try to escape.
I could see his reasoning there.
Yeah. So 2 days later, after Bob Berdella left in the morning, Chris quickly worked to get his hands free. He was dazed from all the drugs, and he was in so much pain, but he was determined. He got one hand free, and then the other. He unstrapped the gag in his mouth, and then he looked around for something he could use to free his feet, because his feet were tied. He saw matches laying on the bedside table, so he lit one, and he used it to burn through the ropes on one ankle and then the other. He was finally free from the bed. Now he needed to get out of the house. So the door was locked from the outside. He couldn't get out the door. The only other option was a window. He was on the second story. So he opened the window and he climbed out of it and tried to lower himself down.
In my mind, he was in a basement. I don't know why I thought that.
Oh, no, he was on the second story. So he tried to lower himself down the side of the house, but the sill of the window gave out with his weight and he fell on the ground.
Damn, this guy's fucked. But now he's out.
He's out, but both of his ankles broke in the fall because he landed on concrete, but he managed to get himself up and run with 2 broken ankles.
Then they couldn't have been broken.
No, they were broken. He broke multiple bones in his ankles and feet, but he got up and ran as fast as he could with broken ankles. I'm sure it wasn't very fast. Wow. And he ran over to the man servicing the water meter.
You know what I would have did? If I put myself in the shoes of the water meter man, if I saw a naked man running towards me with a dog collar, I'm running, even from a distance, like, holy shit, there's a naked man with a dog collar, and I'm out.
Well, thank God he didn't, because this guy helped him get to a phone so he could call police.
Good thing he wasn't as scared as me.
Last year, Save More Money was the most popular New Year's resolution in America. Clearly, a lot of us feel like our money is slipping through our fingers. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not the best saver, and I don't know much about investing until I started saving and investing with Acorns. Turns out you don't have to be an expert at all because Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that fits you and your money goals. And I always thought that when people say, ooh, I invest in stocks, that they had a ton of money or something. Well, you don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you invest with the spare money you've got right now. You can literally start with $5. And you know you guys are spending that at Starbucks on these fancy lattes. So skip the coffee and invest with Acorns. You don't even need a ton of time. Like, you can just sign up and start investing within 5 minutes. Head over to acorns.com/wifeofcrime or download the Acorns app to start saving and investing for your future today. That's acorns.com/wifeofcrime. You guys already know because we have been talking about them for a while now. Via Hemp is by far one of our favorite sponsors we've ever had, okay? We use their products all the time. Maybe you're a little like me. You're a little anxious. You have a hard time settling down. You're kind of wound up a lot. If that's you, Via Hemp products are for you. Check out their website. You will find something that speaks to you. Maybe you're like Russ. You have a hard time sleeping because you have bad nerve pain or chronic pain. Then Via Hemp is for you because their gummies will help you get some quality sleep. Maybe you're looking to have a really good time. Maybe you just really like edibles. You want to laugh. You want to get the munchies. You want to watch a movie and have a really strong belly laugh. Then Via Hemp products are for you, okay? They're literally for everybody. So head over to viahemp.com, promo code wifeofcrime1 to get 15% off your first order. That's VIIAHEMP.com, wifeofcrime1 for 15% off your first order. So when police showed up and upon seeing him and noticing the dog collar, they asked him if this is some sort of like BDSM sex game gone wrong. And he emphatically replied, "No, this is not what it is. I was taken captive and tortured by the man that lives in that house." And Chris pointed to 4315 Charlotte Street. The police knew whose house it was because they were already familiar with Robert Berdella.
This week's episode is sponsored by BarkBox. I got good news. So BarkBox is a monthly subscription for your dog where they send them treats and toys. And I hit them up and I said, "Yo, my listeners like free stuff, so what's up?" And they said, "Oh, good news, Russ. We love your show. So we'll give you and your listeners 1 month free if you sign up for our subscription service." And I said, "Cool." I said, "How do they take care of that?" And they said, "Oh, so just go to barkbox.com/wifeofcrime or they can click the link in the show notes. And this way we know they're your homies and we'll give them a free month. Oh yeah, they do themed ones, and you could do ones for big dogs, those super chewers, or you could even get them for those little poodles with the pink hair that you keep in your purse. So don't forget, go to barkbox.com/wifeofcrime to let them know I sent you and get your free month.
See, the thing about Bob that's interesting is he was not a recluse. He was not an introvert. He loved attention, and he gives me some real John Wayne Gacy vibes. Like, he was very out in his community. A lot of people knew him. He was an openly gay man who owned a store in Kansas City in the Westport Flea Market.
What kind of store?
The store's name was Bob's Bazaar.
Ah!
A very original name. Bob's Bazaar.
But why is it a double bazaar?
I don't know. It was full of weird oddities, like the stuff Chris saw in Bob's house. Shrunken heads, books on the occult, skulls and body parts, organs in jars, and random weird jewelry. Just like a lot of weird shit.
Very Etsy.
No, very like weird, like strange
There's
stuff.
weird Etsy stores.
There might be, I don't know. I feel like Etsy's more crafty. So the community knew Bob Berdella pretty well. Just to give you an idea of how fucking weird this guy was, I'm going to read you what was on his business card.
The just cursing just started.
Are you ready?
It's always weird when you curse. That's like how I could tell, like, you're like starting to get invested and upset.
Well, this guy was super weird and I hate him. So this is what was on his business card. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
I rise from death. I kill death, and death kills me. I resuscitate the bodies I have created, and alive in death I kill myself. Although I carry poison in my head, the antidote can be found in my tail, which I bite with rage. Whoever bites me must first bite himself. Otherwise, if I bite him, death will bite him first in the head. Biting is the remedy against bites. Robert Berdella, 4315 Charlotte Street, Kansas City, Missouri.
I don't fuck with weird people.
This is the longest.
I would have read that and be like, I don't fuck with that dude. I don't even care to be like, that's just his business card. No. Just like, but he was so nice at the flea market. Like, no, I don't fuck with him. Read that card.
No, it's literally the longest business card of all time.
Oh,
I don't even know how you can fit all of that on a business card.
You got either big business cards
or small font.
Small font.
Anyway, so Bob's childhood was pretty unremarkable. He grew up in a regular home with a nuclear family, a mom, a dad, a brother, in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. When he was a teenager, he started working at a restaurant. And unfortunately, he was raped by an older male coworker. Immediately after this, at the age of 18, he enrolled in the Kansas City Art Institute for college. So he moved to Kansas City then. But he was incredibly odd. He did a lot of strange, performance art at exhibitions. He liked to make these outlandish claims, like he had a demon inside of him. He once stood outside of a Christian school and did a black mass with some of his friends, not because he was trying to prove a point or because he was being political or anything, just because he thought it was funny.
Just wearing a black mask?
No, doing a black mass.
Black mass.
Doing a devil worship black mass in front of a Christian school because he thought it was funny.
It's a little funny to troll people that live by these strict standards.
But he was just a weird dude. He kind of reminds me of very Alex Jones-ish. He loved doing things for shock value. And if you don't know who Alex Jones is, he's this totally ridiculous conspiracy theorist who believes Sandy Hook was fake, and he's just nuts. And, when you talk to people who knew Alex Jones, they described him like this, someone who loved to do things for shock value and say really weird, crazy things. And this is how Bob Berdella was.
But I think Alex Jones is hilarious. When he's on certain shows and they ask him stuff and they antagonize him and he comes up with all these weird theories, I think it's hilarious, but what's crazy is that people take him seriously.
Yeah.
And if you listen to this and take him seriously, then you dumb.
Well, Bob Berdella reminded me of very Alex Jonesy. So he also did a lot of LSD and other drugs in art school, and he used to sell it. He was arrested in 1969 for selling drugs, and then he dropped out of college after that. Later that year, he bought the infamous Charlotte Street house, the one that, he pretty much tortured people in.
Yeah.
Throughout the 70s, he opened up his flea market booth in the Westport Flea Market.
So he didn't have a store. He had a booth in a flea market.
Well, yeah, it was
it's not a store. That's way different. A store is a real business, a flea market. He had a blanket with some shit on it.
No, he had a whole little cubby but he used to sell stuff in the flea market.
Like a cubicle.
Yeah,
it's not a store.
Whatever. Whatever. It doesn't matter. But he was really well known in his community because of being at the flea market all the time. And he even helped organize charities and community cleanups. But in 1984, that's when Bob met his first victim, Jerry Howell. Jerry was the son of another flea market booth owner. He was last seen in Bob's car, and the family of Jerry maintained for years that Bob had something to do with Jerry's disappearance. Bob apparently gave Jerry a ride one day, and then no one ever saw him again. And Jerry's family members angrily approached Bob many times at his shop, begging him to tell them what he did with Jerry.
Wow.
But Bob always denied it and claimed he didn't know anything. He didn't know what the hell they were talking about.
And the cops and everyone just let that go?
Yeah, they just let it go.
Did they read his business card and see, he has, you're just a weird dude, bro. You did it. Well, you saw him last.
They didn't have enough evidence. They didn't have anything on him.
I would have tortured him in my basement until I found out.
It was just hearsay. Oh, we saw him in Bob's car, and then Bob might have had an alibi, and then that was it. They didn't have enough to go on.
Wow.
So now, jumping forward to the day Chris Bryson escaped, as I said, police were familiar with Bob Berdella. They knew him because, like the case with Jerry Howell, Bob was in some way connected to 6 different young men who had gone missing between the years 1984 and 1988. Police just didn't have any evidence that he was actually involved in their disappearances. All 6 of these men were not necessarily gay. Not all of them were prostitutes, but all of them were between the age of 19 and 21, and all of them had happened to unfortunately cross paths with him in some way. Either he gave them a ride, he did a favor for them, he was an acquaintance in some way.
Yeah, so he's the common denominator.
Yeah. Upon getting a statement from Chris, police arrested Bob, who wasn't talking. But police obtained a search warrant for his home, and what they found was something out of literal nightmares. They discovered over 300 Polaroids of various men being tortured and raped.
Wow.
Multiple weapons and torture devices, tons of drugs, a notepad meticulously documenting each and every minute of the torturous acts he inflicted on his victims.
What an idiot. Not that I wanted him to get away with it.
Well, police also found envelopes filled with teeth and a human skull in the kitchen cabinet. And in the backyard, a head with the vertebrae still attached. And the head was buried facing up, kind of in like a very Ed Kemper-esque way.
That's what I was going to say. You keep stealing my thunder.
I'm sorry. This was later identified to be a man named Larry Pearson, a friend of Bob's who had gone missing. They found a wallet with a driver's license in it, and it belonged to a man named Walter Ferris, who had gone missing 3 years ago. In the basement, they saw footprints on the ceiling.
Wait,
how do footprints get on the ceiling?
Like The Exorcist when you walk on the ceiling with your...
Well, maybe like The Exorcist. I mean, you could either be possessed by a demon and get footprints on the ceiling, or you have construction workers who don't paint the drywall after they walked all over the ceiling, or...
Oh, that happened to us.
That happened to us.
Fucking assholes.
You hang someone from the ceiling.
By their feet?
By their ankles.
You gotta be really strong to lift a grown man to the ceiling.
Well, he did. Police presented all this evidence to Bob while he was in custody, but he continued to stay quiet. They wanted a confession, and they wanted to know what Berdella had done with all the bodies. All they found were those things. They didn't find bodies of these men.
They don't necessarily need a confession here. It's kind of cut and dry.
No. They only have pieces of evidence, but they don't have enough to build a case about all 6 of these men that they think he was involved in.
But they have enough of a case. He documented what he did, and he had 300 Polaroid pictures. That's enough. It's over for him. Whether he speaks or not, they could play the whole Mel Gibson and Danny Glover good cop, bad cop to try to get him to talk, but it's a wrap.
Well, with the evidence they did have, they built as much of a case as they could against Berdella. They had Larry Pearson's head, and it was clearly him, in 30 of the Polaroid pictures. They also had 20 pages documenting the torture of Larry in Berdella's notepad. They wanted Chris Bryson to testify, but unfortunately, Chris became a very unreliable witness. After the whole traumatic event and torture that he went through for weeks, he got more and more into drugs and ended up being put in psych hospitals over and over again and went even more crazy than he was before and refused to give a statement because he said he just couldn't talk about it.
Well, if something's going to drive you crazy, that could be it.
100%. I totally get it. Like, what he went through was absolutely out of, like, nightmares. So I totally understand. So police, they didn't have the recorded, testimony of Chris. So they decided to charge Bob with the murder of Larry Pearson because it was the strongest case that they had.
But they had 300 pictures. They weren't all of Larry. That's enough.
But they can't connect. You can't connect. You can have pictures, but you can't connect these other men to him without a body. And their bodies were not there.
But he had...
The only body part he had was Larry Pearson's head.
But he had it written down that he did it.
It doesn't matter.
What the fuck matters then?
My point is that...
I wrote down I did it. I cut his dick off. I did all this crazy shit.
Yes, but
I put bleach in his eye.
But the point is that there's still a chance that the defense could bring in reasonable doubt. So they have to go with the strongest possible case because they don't want this guy to get off.
I think as a society, we really need to shame the lawyers that defend these type of people. Everyone needs to be defended in some way. Like if you assault or you need a chance. But when there's cold, cut and dry cases of these type of serial killers, we need to shame these lawyers. I think public shaming, and I'm all about shaming. So,
well, I agree that I don't understand how some of these criminal defense attorneys that, like Casey Anthony's defense attorney, I don't know how they sleep at night, but.
Or if these lawyers sandbag it, then we should praise them as well. Maybe we could start a GoFundMe. We'll call it the Sandbag Fund. We'll pay the defense attorney of the next piece of shit to throw the case and show up drunk and stuff. And, we'll pay his bar tab and stuff like that.
I don't know. I feel like it's where do you draw the line?
How about...
Because some people...
we're in the middle of cancel culture. Cancel these fucking lawyers that represent these pieces of shits.
I know.
And I am anti-cancel culture. Stop all that bullshit. That shit is bullying.
But my question is, where do you draw the line? Because their criminal defense attorneys need to also defend people who are wrongfully accused of things.
We'll draw the line when you found the body parts in their backyard, when they documented all of the killings and they had 300 pictures of torture. We could draw the line right there.
Yeah.
That's a good line. And the line could be a little bit less.
No, it's true. I think you're right. I do. I agree with you. But the good news is Bob Berdella didn't have enough money to be able to afford a defense attorney. So he was relying on public defenders.
Oh, and they're the worst. They show up with their Coca-Cola bottle glasses, with their suits that are too big for them. And their suits are...
Public defenders are good people, too. Leave them alone.
Their suits
They're
are so big,
Russ.
it looks like the pants of their suits are boot
You're
cut.
so
You can't
full
even
of
see
it.
their shoe.
Nuh-uh. Public defenders, they actually do really good work for some people. They're good people.
I had a public defender a few times, and that's how they looked. And none of them had a haircut.
Not all of them are like that.
Hey, a few that you've been defended by public attorneys, let me know if any of them had a haircut. Guarantee none of them had a haircut, and the suits were way too big. They look like they got them from Steve Harvey.
You're so full of crap.
No, this is the truth.
Well, not all of them are like that. I've watched a documentary on public defenders, and they're so overworked. They have a lot of cases and a lot of people that they're trying to defend. They have a lot going on.
Me too, and I watched that too. Then don't do it.
So he was relying on public defenders. And this made Bob worry because he was up for the death penalty and he didn't want to die. So, to everyone's surprise, Bob entered a guilty plea and confessed to the murder. In jail, awaiting his trial, which never happened because Bob confessed to the torture and murders of all 6 missing men: Jerry Howe, Robert Sheldon, Mark Wallace, Walter Ferris, Todd Stoops, and Larry Pearson. He told police every agonizing detail of the rape and torture he inflicted, sometimes for weeks.
Wow.
And how, after they died, he dismembered the bodies, threw them in the trash, which was picked up by garbage men and taken to a landfill.
Wow.
So that's where
their bodies are gone forever.
Yeah, that's where all the bodies went. He just cut them up and put them in his trash can, and then the garbage men took it.
Like hiding in plain sight. If you want to hide something, hide it in a spot where people think you wouldn't hide it.
Exactly.
Like just right in front of your face.
Yeah. So the crazy thing about Robert Berdella is he never gave any motive for his crimes. He told police that he got drugs from the vet pretending it was for his dogs. And that the reason he gave for taking those meticulous notes of the torture, he said, I like taking notes. I always wanted to be a note taker. Like, that was his reason.
I believe him. Because you're already this far into it. Why lie?
He told police he liked being in control. He enjoyed raping the men and torturing them because he was in total control of them. It's very like Jeffrey Dahmer-ish. He claimed that his sexual fantasy started after seeing the 1965 film The Collector, which is about a guy who holds a woman hostage in his basement and she falls in love with him.
So he was hoping one of these people would fall in love?
I guess. He said that was what started his sexual fantasy of holding someone hostage and torturing them.
And that's probably why he started giving Chris more privileges.
Maybe.
Like putting his hands down. And
yeah.
He thought he probably was going on that path.
Maybe. He also said he never felt remorse. Not once. And all he cared about was not getting caught. So there's that. Bob Berdella complained to a minister in 1992 that the prison guards had stopped giving him his heart medication. He had a heart condition from childhood that caused him to have incredibly high blood pressure, and he needed his medicine to survive. But it turns out that Bob was a giant pain in the ass for the prison guards because he frequently made complaints and claims that the prison guards were terrible and treating him like crap, and he would tell anyone who listened, even the media.
It's not a resort.
Oh, exactly, it's prison.
Yeah, good luck. It's a punishment.
Exactly. So then in 1992, he had a heart attack and died. And I'm assuming it's because the guards stopped giving him his meds.
Yo, shout out to those guards. Much respect.
And his death was never investigated. So I think everyone was just happy that the guy died.
Yeah, rid the earth of him. Hopefully they beat him up sometimes too.
Well, that's it. That's the story of Bob Berdella.
Well, he was a real piece of shit.
He was. He was a terrible guy. This was like... So there's tons of photos online, which I looked at a few, and it was just a little much for me. I'm not going to really post pictures of a bunch of dead people because I feel weird about it. But I'll post pictures of his house and Bob's Bazaar and his... I'll post other pictures, but I'm probably not going to post pictures of the dead men that he had in his house. If you want to look it up, you can look it up yourself.
Yeah, we all have Google. I'm probably not going to look it up. I'm interested to see his store, the Bazaar. I don't know why he said it twice. Does he have a stutter? But
yeah, it was really weird. But now on Facebook, someone made a Bob's Bazaar Facebook, and it was a huge hoax. They claimed that they were going to reopen Bob's Bazaar, and all these people got really angry on Facebook, and it caused a big stir. But it wasn't true. It was just a hoax that people were trolling on Facebook.
But it's not Bob's Bazaar if Russ opens it.
No, they claimed they were part of his family. But I don't think they really were part of his family. Yeah, they were just saying that they were his family members and they were going to reopen the booth in the flea market.
It probably was just a troll because I like to mess with people on the internet.
Yeah.
And it's not like bullying. It's just like I don't rile people up that much, but whatever.
Yeah, they were just riling people up.
You just like mess with people. Like, oh my God, look at these sensitive idiots.
But they still have the Facebook going and they post on it all the time. So.
But everything he did was terrible. And he deserved everything that came to him. And the one good thing about this is that at least there was closure.
Yeah.
He actually said what he did. A lot of these people go to jail and they don't say like anything. And we just know about the one or two people that they admitted to. And the other ones we're assuming that they did, which we're probably sure that they killed the other ones.
Yeah, but the families don't really get closure for it.
Yeah, I guess it would make them feel better, but they a lot of times always feel like they don't need this guy to say it because we know.
Yeah.
And his word don't mean shit anyway because he's a piece of shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there we go.
All right.
Well, thank you for choosing this episode, patrons. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It's pretty bad, but I hope you enjoyed it. And definitely check us out on Instagram at Wife of Crime Pod, on Facebook at Wife of Crime the Crime Family, on the Patreon at Wife of Crime the Crime Family, and on Twitter at Wife Crime. And that's it.
We have merch on the Wife of Crime website. Find it somewhere. We got some dope shirts.
Yeah.
Say like Wife of Crime and stuff and cups, and I think we have a phone case or something. Yeah. We got some stuff. Check it out. Let me know what you think, but only tell me what you think if you like it.
All right, everybody. Bye.
Peace.